Good morning, Nora Road here with a moisture test after 4 months. My prepper bug out hideaway buckets. It's been 4 months and there has been some very, very serious rain, okay? There's coffee, still good. Now, I've been saying that this stuff really works. And okay, let's see. I'm telling you, like real serious rain. It still smells good. So this is a moisture test. Here's a pair of socks and they're clean. So I'm telling you, they are so laundry fresh. Okay, this is workout powder. And all of this is good powders for my training and stuff like that, which have already been opened. So if there was any moisture at the bottom, even just a little moisture, these things would be totally clumped up. You know how powder works, right? And here I am down at the bottom. A little rope. I could stash it up. This is not my only stash. I mean, this is just, one. I got these things buried in 1, 2, 3, 3 other towns. Oh, that smells good. Got a couple of shirts in here. Okay, so anyways, this is for my viewers, those of you who have been following my channel, my homeless hermit video uploads, and I have been I got a couple of other videos that go into these prepper buckets that I do. Always got my coffee, right? These things work, and I was saying you could stash, let's say, like paperwork, important papers and stuff. And a lot of the reasons I would suggest doing this is if your marriage is starting to go on the rocks and you just don't trust your wife or your whoever, and you could bury these things somewhere on the back of your property. You could bury 5, 6 of them. I mean, one bucket don't hold too much. And this is without any sort of like a covering. Like I'm into putting like trap doors over them too, about yay big. Like I got some with like metal sheets that I found out in the woods and put it over them. And that'll really keep them good. Here's the shovel that I have buried next to it too. One thing I will say, if you go to dig these suckers, you got to have a saw with you. Like one of those folding camping kind of saws, which I recommend going to the gardening section rather than the camping section. The gardening section is a little more better. Sorry for the claustrophobic video, but I just don't want anybody who may be local. I mean, there's some really good people in this town, and I think most people are good, and the few people around that kind of know me and who are locals and are aware of my little YouTube channel, I don't think they would ever mess me up or mess with my things. But you never know. There could be a bad apple, and they might be, oh, I recognize that area, and then they come up and mess it up. So that's, sorry about the claustrophobic video, where it's just the camera's facing the ground. But yeah, I just wanted to show, this is after 4 months, and as you can see, everything is laundry fresh, and I don't even have like a board over it. This is just with the lid alone. And I'm telling you, this last month and a half, there has been so much rain. It's been like almost floody-ish. About 3 times this last week, there's been rain that definitely had a lot of flash flooding and stuff like that. So as you can see, this is 4 months, which is like 120 days it's been buried. It certainly could last a year. And this is with just the lid. So if you put like some kind of a board or some kind of a sheet of metal over it and then cover it over, as long as you remember where it's buried, obviously, these things could last who knows how long. I had one buried for 3 years with just the lid, without the trapdoor, and there was a little moisture getting at the bottom. I noticed that. One of them. But I also had one buried for 18 months with just the lid. There was no trapdoor, no sheet of metal over it, no board over it or nothing like that, and it was dry as this. I've got one area where I've got 5 of these buckets buried and a 17-gallon feed bucket with, blankets and a tent and, a tarp and rope and a winter jacket and some winter boots and stuff. I got some food, supplements, that sort of stuff. Things that will last a long time and will survive the freezing process and so forth, If I was somebody who was married and I had a wife I just didn't quite trust, I mean, I would definitely have, like, what they call in the prepper world, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, those sort of stuff. I would have 4 or 5, buckets buried if I had 20 acres of property in a place where only I knew, and I wouldn't even tell anybody. And if I didn't trust a wife, I would put some, if I needed some paper, if I had important paperwork or something like that, I would put it in, I don't know, maybe, in some kind of a container and put that in the 5-gallon bucket. Keep it off the very bottom, just in case years later it got a little moisture in there. But that's what I personally would do. So, and if you don't want all your eggs in one basket, so you always want a little bit of a backup. These people that have these prepper channels, and everybody knows they got a homestead. They got rainwater collectors. They've got solar panels and windmill energy. They got batteries that can kind of, they can switch on and keep electricity going. They've got thousands of rounds of ammo, lots of guns, and lots of food stored, medicine stored, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. I mean, what, you don't think the locals know about that? You don't think the government knows about that? Honestly, people that are better at living hand to mouth and living on the outskirts of society, who have a little bit of preparation, I personally think are going to be the ones that survive the best. The zombies are going to be dangerous, and they'll, zombies figuratively, the people that are just unprepared and they're crazy and they're drug addicts, if the shit hit the fan, I think I would call those type the zombies. Those people will be dangerous at first, and in the first wave they'll get a few people, but those people are going to kind of die out pretty quick. And then, you're going to have, a second round of people that die fast, and then you're going to have, these prepper types and stuff but the problem with them is everybody will just be able to wait them out, and the government might be knocking on their door. But when you got somebody like me who's really used to being uncomfortable, who has these buckets, a little bit, just a little, because you're not going to be able to take hundreds of pounds of stuff that you've been preparing. Most of that stuff, you're going to lose your investment, and you're going to be run into the hills with very little. So it's really cool to have these small, investments scattered thinly throughout your area, and hopefully you're smart enough or, fortunate enough to be in a smaller community rather than a large city, because once you're in a large city, man, that is it. I mean, how are you going to get out? And the water could be turned on and turned off, and there's no real natural resources. There's no way. It's almost like an outdoor prison, because they got the surveillance all over a city. Everywhere you go, from one corner to the next, you're getting picked up by camera, so you can't leave your house if they have a lockdown scenario. And you can't just turn the water on if they decide to turn it off. They could have rolling brownouts and so forth. They could have a lot of, they could really lock the city down really easy and turn it into an outdoor prison. Sort of like everybody be on house arrest or something, like they did in China, like they did in certain areas of, Italy, when we saw, what we saw on the internet, 3 years ago, people screaming, hollering, sometimes they were singing and so forth, but they were all out on their balconies and they were just locked down. They couldn't go anywhere. But if you're, in places like this and you got your stuff scattered in the surrounding areas, if this area don't work, you got some over in this area, and just be sensible about, what's going to survive the freezing process, what isn't. Not everything does, but you can do it if you spread things out. So if I don't, this is just an example, and one of the reasons I did this is just to, to do it for the exercise of doing it, and to, upload it to my videos and have people say, wow, it does work. So anyways, here I am in the woods, probably about a quarter of a mile or so away from my stealth camp. And I got this sucker buried. I got another one buried somewhere. I got I got two other ones in this town. You know, one of them they're wedged in somewhere. You know, one's wedged under a fallen, tree. Another one's wedged under some concrete. And this one here is buried. But I got, some in another town, and 3 other towns probably. So, yeah, I got them spread out a little bit. And then I got my little Noah Road food banks and stuff like that, that I got food under logs and so forth, and out in the woods stashed. And, this is the type of people that I personally, somebody like in my situation, was used to being uncomfortable, used to living on the edge of society, and, I think more than likely I'd have a better chance of surviving than somebody with a real big homestead, because if you got that big homestead, hey, they're really great channels to watch, and they got a lot of good information, but everybody knows who they are, and the government's definitely got their eyes on them. So if everything got shut down, what do you think they're gonna, send some people to their house? And their neighbors in a 40-50 mile vicinity, a lot of them know that they have a channel. If they got 100,000 subscribers, they're pretty popular. I don't think these people are really realizing that they think that somehow it's like 1776, and it just isn't those days anymore. You can't beat the government with a few pop guns and having your food stored. Because anyways, I'm rambling. I just wanted to say hi. I wanted to show and prove that these things do work. This is 4 months moisture test, and I mean, we've had a lot of rain, and this is just the lid alone. And you could actually reinforce these things with putting some sort of a sheet of metal over that, and then putting the stuff over it. These things work. You can keep important paperwork. You can put the as peppers are called, beans, bullets, and band-aids, and yeah. And you could put these things all around, in one area. And then if you couldn't make it to that one, you could got another one. So you could have some, north, south, east, and west of your area, of your town. All right. Anyways, with that, it works so far. Over 120 days buried, and I mean, it is serious laundry fresh, even right down at the bottom. And this is just the lid alone, without any kind of reinforcement with a board or a sheet of metal over it or anything. All right. Noah Road over and out for now.